V27. When I woke, I discovered we were all three shackled to the wall. Stockard and Charisma were both still out. I would try and wake Charisma, as she was the only one of the three of them, or the three of us, with Odin's gift, or full Odin's abilities, I should say. Chris, come on, Chris, wake up, I called to her. Stockard woke up, and she also started to call her name, as Charisma was our only hope. Finally, half a sanity later, she started to wake. What is going on? Charisma asked. We are not sure. We just woke up ourselves, I told her. Where is Peter? And what is he trying to prove? Stockard then asked as she looked about the room. I have no idea, Charisma replied as the door opened and Mr. Dumbass entered. Look, speak of the devil, and he enters, I said, filled with anger and not even wanting to believe he was this stupid. Danny was going to kill him, for he and Emmett would be looking for the three of us. Peter, let us loose. Danny will be looking for me, and you know Emmett will be looking for them, I told him, and much to my surprise, he moved over to me and backhanded me. My head moved to the side. My head moved to the side, and I could feel blood coming from my mouth. I knew he had blacked the side of my face. Before I could even scream, he then slapped me, and I felt dizzy for a slight moment. Be silent. You are nothing besides a Dinah. You speak and act as if you are free. My brother allows this, and it is wrong. I will show them how wrong it is, he said. I believe he had gone insane. He looked then to Stockard and Charisma. Emmett is planning on doing worse than Danny has done, he said. His voice was one of anger. I always knew Peter was a dumbass. However, never thought he was to be this stupid. Placing courtesans as priestesses is an outrage and a mockery of our entire world. I plan to prevent it from occurring. He then said, Danny is going to have your head. I screamed at him, and again he backhanded me, busting now the other side of my mouth. Silence, Dinah, he called to me, and I did scream as he struck me the second time. By the time your bodies are found, not one person will be able to identify you. You see, the three of you ran away. You escaped, and unfortunately, the beasts of the forest got to you before anyone could find you. What a pity it will be, he said, as if he had it all this planned out. I suppose in his sanity or insanity, he did have it planned out. My lord will never believe I tried to run, Charisma said to him. With your past history, I believe he will, he then replied. Guess he did not know about the collar deal on Emmett's desk. Peter, you have known me since we were children. Why are you doing this? Stockard called to him. I believe trying to reason with him and change his mind. Your misfortune was receiving a brand. No courtesan will ever believe that they are able to rule the throne or me, he told her, and I really truly could not believe what he was saying. He then turned and walked out of the room. I know not what had gotten into him, Stockard said. I believed in shock. What are we going to do? I asked them, as I could not get out of these chains. However, Charisma could. First, we need to get out of these shackles, Charisma said. Then she was standing before me. She placed her hands on the shackles, and they opened. She then moved to the door. You know, there are guards on the other side of this door. I said to her, as I was sure Peter was not doing all this by himself. Maybe we could put them to sleep, Stockard suggested. Do you have that ability? Charisma asked her. No, I have a difficult time even with telepathy. I thought you might have it, Stockard then said. I stood there rubbing my wrist, listening to the two of them. Then what are you suppose we do? You and Patsy sing them a lullaby. I cannot do it. I can unlock things and defy gravity, and that is the extent of my ability, Patsy, Charisma said, and I looked to her in shock as she called my name. Do not look at me. I can only unlock my collar, and I need to touch it to do that. We will just have to take them. Let us hope they are not too many, I said with a smirk. Stop, Charisma said, looking questionably to her as she stood by the door, one hand on the latch. I am not exactly helpless, you know, Charisma, she told her. I nodded to her as she looked to me and moved closer to her. As soon as she opened the door, 2 guards ran into the room. I moved back into the room, and as they entered, then as one came over to me, I kicked him in the stomach. Then before we even knew what had happened, Charisma had them shackled to the wall. I looked to her and then the 2 guards. I had to laugh as I remembered what everyone said about the day Emmett bought her off the block sale. Charisma looked to me as I laughed, and she did the same. Do you think Peter will be smart enough to tell the difference? Charisma asked. I started laughing even more. I would almost say no, I told her. We left the room and started down the corridor that would lead us out of the dungeon. When we came to the stairs, Charisma and I positioned ourselves to either side of the door. Stockard was behind us on the stairs. Charisma unlocked the door and flung it open quickly. Watch out, Stock! We both yelled and Stockard as we each grabbed a guard and tossed him down the stairs. Poor Stockard jumped to the side of the railing and held on to it. One of the guards caught himself and Charisma kicked him in the arse and he went on down the stairs. The 3 of us took off running down the halls of the palace. 3 guards had chased us out of the dungeon and kept running after us. We just kept running until we made it to Lewis's office. We did not even knock on the door. We just ran in, and the guards were smart as they did the same. As we entered, the 3 of us moved or fell onto our knees before his desk. Lewis was much surprised or startled. As we entered, he stood straight up behind his desk. The guards chasing us entered. Seeing Lewis stand, they knelt to one knee. What is the meaning of this? Lewis demanded, and mind you, not in the happiest tone. We pursued these 3 coming from the dungeon, sire, one guard said. The dungeon? He questioned surprisingly. Yes, sire, they seem to be escaping from it, the other guard said. Out, Lewis called to the guards loudly and pointed to the door. The guards wasted no time in leaving. What were the 3 of you doing in the dungeon? Heal, he said. We all started talking at the same time. He stared at us, then put up one hand. Ladies, silence. I can only understand one of you at a time. Stockard, Lewis then said. Sire, Peter said he had a surprise for Emmett and Danny, so we went with him. He chained us to a wall in the dungeon and said that all would think we ran away. and our bodies would never be recognized in the forest after the animals got to us. She told him, and you could see the anger rise in our high priest. Where is he now? He asked. We are without knowing, sire. Stockard then replied. Sit on the couch. All of you, he said, not calming in the least. As we obeyed, he moved to his desk. He then looked to me. Patsy, where is Danny? He asked me. My master is at the concert hall, sire. I replied to him. Where is Emmett? He then asked, looking to Stockard. He is at the Palace of the Bar as far as I know, sire. She then told him. I watched as he connected the call con. Emmett, I have Stockard, Charisma, and Patsy here in my office. You need to locate Danny, and the both of you come to my office. I will explain when you get here. We heard him say before he even gave Emmett time to even say greetings, then he disconnected. We sat quietly on the couch as we waited for Emmett and Danny to arrive. Louis seemed restless, for he kept trying to look at some papers on his desk. He apparently gave up and shoved the papers into a drawer. I would say about the passing of an hour, Emmett and Danny, along with Mike and Scott and Paul, came into the office. As soon as they did, Louis looked to Stockard. Stockard, now tell us everything that happened. Before Stockard could say one word, Danny took one look at me, and I was being pulled to my feet before him. What happened to you? Who did this? He asked. I knew my face was to be black and blue, and my mouth was busted on both sides. Danny, please listen to Stockard. She will explain it, please, I pleaded with him. He placed his arms about me and listened as Stockard told them all that had happened. I could feel Danny's body get hot. He was overly pissed, and I clung to him even more. As Stockard finished, Louis spoke up. I want Peter located, seized, and presented before me, Louis had said to them. He will be found. However, when I find him, I am taking his head. He has gone against the throne and will be destroyed, Emmett said, filled with anger and very arrogantly to his father. Emmett, he is your brother. As I said, he will be presented before me, Louis said. Father, all due respect. If Emmett does not take his life, I will, Danny said, as he moved from me, and I looked to him, daring not to say one word. He and Emmett were pissed beyond the slightest doubt. Emmett, Danny, no. Emmett, do not interrupt the rotation of the millennium. You know the decrees, and you are not yet the high priest, Louis then said with worry in his voice. Father, I am not going to interrupt the rotation of the millennium. He went against me. I may not be the high priest. However, I am the millennium high priest. Therefore, when he went against me, he also committed treason against the throne. Therefore, his life is forfeited. We will bring him back. However, he will be without life, Emmett said. He then looked to his brothers. Let us go find Peter, Emmett said. Mike, Scott, Paul, think of what you are about to do, Louis protested. The five of them said nothing. They merely turned and followed Emmett out of the office. After they left, Louis sat back at his desk. When did I lose control of this throne? Louis said, I believe more to himself than to us. We said nothing as we awaited them to return. All right. Chapter 53. It was soon the week of the coronation. Everyone was worried, as the people were not the happiest with Emmett. Also, they had found Peter, and as Emmett said, he took his head. Lewis had been very worried when they all had returned and insisted they go to the sanctuary, where the sector was. Lewis handed Emmett the sector, and the glow of the eye remained in favor of Emmett. You could see the relief on Lewis's face lift. I believe Lewis's confidence in his youngest son raised that day. I was sitting at the table in the tavern, as always, when I saw a female move in. She had a small child by the hand, and as I moved closer, I saw it was Emmy. I stood and moved quickly over to her. "Emmy!" I called and jumped up and ran to her. She let the child's hand go and placed her arms about me. "Greetings, Patsy," she said, happy with a tint of sadness. I pulled from her and looked to her. "What is wrong, Emiletta?" I asked, starting to worry. She smiled and looked to me. "I am home. This is Asmia. She is my daughter. She is in 3rd level," she told me, I believe trying to bypass the question I asked. I moved to one knee and to eye level with the young girl. "Greetings, little one," I said to her. "Greetings," she replied sweetly and seemed to try and get closer to Emmy's leg, holding tight to it. I looked to Emmy. "She is shy." I smiled and stood. "Yes, she is not used to being around people." "This will soon change," she told me. "Where have you been?" I asked her. She placed her lips close together and shook her head. "No more questions, Patsy. I cannot answer them," she told me. I nodded to her. "All right. How long you home for?" I asked her. "I am home to remain," she told me. "Your husband?" I asked. "No questions," she told me. "Right. Well, it matters not. You are home," I said, and hugged her. I moved with her to the table and looked to the little one. "Azamia, would you like some ice cream?" I asked her. "What is that?" she asked me. I looked at Emmy as she asked that when ice cream was a child's favorite thing, or I thought it was. She has been in a garden the first 3 years of her life, and limited to what she would have, Emmy said, and placed her arms around the girl. "Chocolate cream. Do you want some?" Emmy asked her. I had never heard what she had said, had no idea what it meant. "Yes, please," she then said. I know, no questions. However, does she speak a different language? I asked Emmy, and she laughed. "No, just some things are called different than what they are here," she told me. There was only one place that had a different vocabulary for things that was held dangerous. I then started to realize why she wanted no questions. I moved and had Jonathan to get the child some ice cream. After a while, she stood with the child. "I have to face Father and Emmett. I cannot hold off any longer," she said as she turned, and Emmett was behind her. She said nothing as she stood before him. "Returned from hell to see me coronated, my dear sister," Emmett said harshly, and I felt the anger in him. I gathered he knew something I did not, and I stepped back from them. I knew you knew I was here. I was coming to the palace to speak with Father," she said. "Emily, you have been in Atlantis for 3 hours passing now," he told her. "Please do not be like this. Calm down. I am staying," she told him. "Where is he?" Emmett asked. "He is not here, and we are not on speaking terms as of right now," Emmy said to Emmett. "What of the child? 'Tis his," Emmett then said. "Yes, and when he wishes to see her, he will let me know, and he may. After I speak with Father, I am taking Aunt Dee's place. There I will remain. You are with child, Emmett then said, and I was surprised. I wondered how Emmett knew that. Yes, the child will be transferred here and raised here. Please, Emmett, let me remain, she said to him. I already told you I would when you contacted me. However, I also told you to come right to Valhalla, he said to her. You do not always do as you are told either. I was not ready to face Father, she told him. I watched the little girl move slowly over to Emmett and pull on his pants. He looked down to her. He then reached down and picked her up. He smiled to his sister as he held the little girl. I cannot remain with anger with you. You know this, Emmett said. Let us hope Father feels the same, Emmy replied. I watched as Emmett placed a hand out to Emmy, and taking it, they moved out of the tavern. I was not sure what that was all about. Danny never spoke of it, and as Emmy said, no questions. So no questions did I ask. It was the day before the coronation.